Happy New Year's Eve, Broadway Christian. Today's scripture is from Isaiah 9, verses 6 through 7. For a child has been born for us, a son given to us. Authority rests upon his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Great will be his authority, and there shall be endless peace for the throne of David and his kingdom. He will establish and uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time onward and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Kim Ryan began this long-standing tradition of the Sunday after Christmas being one of story. Today's story, those of you who know of Amahl and the Night Visitors by Giancarlo Menotti, you know it as an opera, and you will hear underscore and tones of that in my retelling. I ask that you hunker down and listen to this beautiful story of a shepherd boy who meets the three kings. The winter winds carried on them the sound of a pipe. The pipe was being played by a young shepherd boy who was wrapped in a very heavy cloak. He was amazed because as he played his pipe, he looked up into the sky and thought that maybe he was evoking star after star into twinkling. But one star in particular enwrapped him. He was looking at its brightness and knowing that that was a special one when his piping was interrupted by his mother's call. Amahl! Come in. It's time for bed. Coming, mother, he said. But then, as boys and children will do, he picked his pipe up again, and he began to continue playing. Underneath that starlight, and his mother got a little exasperated and shouted out to him, Amahl! Amahl! Stop your piping. Come in, the night is cold. But mother, my cloak is warm. But the sky is dark. But the moon shines brightly. And it is quite late. But I am watching in wonder. Amahl, do not press me. Come in. And so the boy reluctantly leaned down and picked up the crutch beside him and tucked his pipe under and walked into the house. When he got there, he laid his pipe up on the mantel. What was it that was keeping you so long? Oh, mother, you need to come out and see. There has never been a sky such as this. There is a bright star, and it has a tail, and the tail seems to be like a chariot on fire. Oh, Amahl, when will you tire of telling me tales? You see, I can barely get the twigs started for a fire in our fireplace. We have not a drop of oil for our lamps. And here you come worrying me with one story after another. Oh, but mother, it is true. Please come out and see what I see. But she didn't. And as Amahl and she began to talk, she looked and said, it's time for you to go to bed. He gave her a kiss and laid down on his straw mat, and she pulled his cloak up over him and went and laid on the bench by the fireplace herself. Now in the night, Amahl was awakened by what he heard as men's voices singing, from far we have come, and further we will go. How far, my crystal star? Amahl wondered if these were beggars coming, for his mother had told them that if something wasn't in their cupboard and their pockets by tomorrow, they would have to go begging. And he had told his mother, if we have to go begging, a good beggar I'll be. I'll play my lute and you will dance and sing, and people will open up their doors and see and hear and join us. And the king will ride by and he will throw us gold. And then in the afternoon we will feast on roast goose and almonds. And at night we will sleep with the sheep under the stars. Could it be beggars coming his way? How far, how far? Amahl grabbed his crutch and went to the window to peer out. And so surprised was he to see a caravan of 3 huge camels right outside of their house, and upon them 3 elegantly dressed men. Well, it was more than he could handle, and he ran back to his bed and he covered his head with his cloak. And he heard a knock at the door. His mother didn't stir, but said, Amahl, go and see who is at the door. And so to the door he went, and when he opened it, he was so surprised to see the face of a regal man in a crown. He slammed the door in his face and went to his mother and said, Mother, mother, come and see. I need you to see what I see. And his mother said, what is it? He said, there is a king with a crown outside of our door. What is a mother to do? What am I to do with your stories? Amahl, go back to bed. But then the knocking came again. And she said, go and see who it is. And this time, ask them what they want. And so Amahl went over to the door and opened it. And there he saw the faces of 2 kings. He ran back to his mother. Mother, mother, come and see. I want you to see what I see. There is not a king at the door. Well, that's a good boy. There are 2 kings at the door. Oh, Amahl, Amahl, go to the door and ask them what it is that they want, and tell them that you have to get back to bed and I don't want any tales. So Amahl went back to the door as best he could and opened it to see 3 kings. Mother, mother, come and see. There are not 2 kings. That's a good boy. I knew there weren't 2 kings. There are 3 kings. Well, with this, his mother got up and she went to the door. And when she got there and pulled it open, she was astounded and she bowed low, for indeed there were 3 royally dressed kings, and each one was carrying a gift, one a burnished chalice of myrrh, and one a shining urn of frankincense, and one a gleaming table box of gold. She entered backward into the house, and the king said to her, may we come in? For we need some rest, and may we warm ourselves by your fire. She said, I have nothing in the house. I don't even have a fire, but you're welcome to come in. One of the kings, who was a little bit hard of hearing, said, eh? What did she say? And the king said, we are welcome. We are welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you kindly. And in came the kings, led by a page who carried the weight of an oriental rug and a treasure trove. And when he laid out the rug, each king laid down his gift of myrrh and frankincense and gold. He introduced the kings. This is Balthazar. He is a king, and this is King Caspar, and this one, King Melchior. And the family bowed low. We have come, and we can only stay a little while, said Melchior, for we cannot lose sight of our star. Your star? Your star? Said his mother. I think I'll put my cloak on and just go outside and see if I can find some wood. And when she left, she turned and said to Amahl, Amahl, do not be a nuisance. But as soon as the door was shut, Amahl scrambled up to the first king, the one with the beautiful ebony skin, and he said, "Are you a real king?" "Yes." "Do you have regal blood?" "Yes." "Can I see it?" It looks just like yours." "Oh, well, where do you live?" "I live in a black palace full of marble and ebony, with black panthers and beautiful white turtle doves." "And what about you, little boy? What do you do?" "Oh, I was a shepherd. I had a small flock of sheep, but my mother sold them. Oh, and I had a black goat who gave me warm, sweet milk, but she died of old age." And then Amahl went to the next king. "And what about you? Are you a real king?" "Eh?" The first king indicated that he was a little hard of hearing. "Are you a real king?" "Well, yes. Yes, I'm a real king. Aren't I?" "Yes, you are a real king." "What is that?" And he pointed to the treasure box that the king held. And he said, "This is my box. This is my box. I never go anywhere without my box. In the first drawer, I have magic stones. Like this carnelian is to ward off evil and envy. And this blue sapphire is to ward off the lapis strength of winter virus. And this one, this red ruby, is to keep you safe in lightning. And this jasper is to help you find water. Oh, and this one is to help heal your wounds. It is a red coral. And in this second box, oh, little boy, are my beads. I love to play with my beads. There are beads of all sorts. I string them, I watch them, I loop them. And in the third drawer, oh, young man, in the third drawer, I keep black, sweet licorice. Would you like a piece?" And he pulled out a piece of the licorice and handed it to Amahl. And just as he popped it into his mouth, his mother came in. "Amahl, I told you not to be a nuisance." And he went over to her and said, "But mother, they kept asking me questions." And then she said, "You must go. You must put on your cloak and your hat, and you must travel over the fields to all of the homes of the shepherds. And you must invite them to come and bring everything that they have, for we have nothing to offer these kings." And so Amahl did just that. And as he left the house and began to hurry as he might through the hills, his mother closed the door and could not help but be gazing upon the beautiful treasures. All of this gold, what is it for?" And the king said, "We follow the star who will lead us to the child." "The child? What child?" "We don't know. But when we find him, we will offer him these gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh." "What does the child look like?" "Well, we've never seen him, but we hear that he has a face the color of wheat that shines like the dawn, and he has the hands of a king." "I know such a boy. He is my child, my son, my beloved, my darling, my own." "The child we seek," said one of the kings, "holds the moon and the stars at his feet. The child we seek has mild eyes and is fit to be king. The child we seek tames even the wild eagle, and the leopard and the lion are calm and meek before him. The child who I know holds my life in the palm of his hand, and my love encircles his feet." There was silence in the room. And then she said, "Listen, the shepherds, they are coming." And over the hill came the lanterns of the shepherds. They walked and brought with them armloads of gifts, singing and greeting one another. "Bartholomew, Peter, how is your family? And how are your sheep? Genevieve, Lucas, Bartholomew, Alexandria, how are your families and how are your sheep?" And as they greeted one another, they gathered in closely and warmed one another with the cloaks that each of them had. Carrying the gifts, "We follow Amahl to bring gifts to the kings." And when they arrived, they peered in the window and were quite astonished by the vision of these three regal men wearing crowns. They couldn't budge. But from behind, the crowd began to press in, and in they came, and they laid their gifts before the king. "We bring you apples and almonds and olives and goat cheese. We bring you pomegranates and persimmon and cinnamon and mint." And the king said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you kindly." And they began to feast. While they were feasting, the joviality of the moment rose into music. And they began to play their instruments that they had brought. And Amahl went over to the mantle and got his pipe and began to join them reluctantly at first. But soon they were all playing and singing every song they knew. They were dancing around so joyously that the party was on and looked like it would never end. But then one of the kings stood and said, "The night gets late, and we have far to travel tomorrow. So we must bid you farewell and good night." With that, the shepherds all gathered up their families and went out the door and back home again. Once inside the house, Amahl made his way to King Caspar, who he had become so fond of, and he said, "Sir, in your drawer of magic stones, might there be one that would help a boy to walk more freely?" But Caspar did not hear him. And Amahl said, "Very well. Good night." And as the family all lay down to sleep, and the kings shoulder to shoulder rested their heads on one another, only one was awake, and it was Amahl's mother. For she could not take her eyes off of the gold. Do rich people know what their gold could do for the poor? Do they know that it could light and warm a house and feed a family of children? Do rich people know that if they shared their gold, that we would all have more than enough? Why should they take this gold to a child they don't even know? Why should they take this gold away when we could use it, what I could do with that gold for my child? And she thought, they won't miss just a bit. And she inched forward toward the gold where the page had slumped over to fall asleep and thought she could reach around. They won't miss it. I'll take just a bit. And as she picked up some of the gold, the page awoke. And startled, he grabbed Amahl's mother, and she fought him and wrestled him. And the kings awoke to all of the clamor, and they said, "What is going on?" And Amahl awoke and saw his mother trying to free herself from the grasp of the page. And he hobbled over and he threw his full weight upon the page. "Do not hurt my mother. Do not hurt her. She would never do anything wrong. I'm the one who tells stories. I'm the one who takes things. Do not hurt my mother." And he pleaded to Caspar, "Don't let her be hurt, please." At which time Caspar signaled for the page to let Amahl's mother go. And she fell to her knees. And she opened her arms, and Amahl hobbled in and laid his crutch down in the embrace of his mother. "The king that we seek," said Melchior, "does not need our gold, for he will rule the world in love. The king that we seek, his hand will never hold a scepter, and his haloed head will never hold a crown. Woman, keep the gold." She walked toward him and poured the gold out before them. "No, take the gold. I have waited my whole life for a king whose might would not be built on the toil of the people, a king who would rule in love. And had I anything, I would send a gift to the king." And Amahl leaned over and said, "Mother, take my crutch. Please, your majesties, I made it myself. And who knows, the Christ child may need it." And his mother said, "No, Amahl." And the king said, "Ma'am, let him offer the crutch." And Amahl stood and handed the crutch to Caspar. And as he stood, he realized, "Mother, I walk." And the kings said, "Look, the child walks." And his mother said, "Amahl, you walk indeed. It is a miracle of the Christ child," declared the king, "for the boy's love and generosity. Mother, look, I can jump, I can dance, I can run." And with that, he said, "Mother, please, let me take the crutch to the king myself." And the king said, oh, do, let him take the crutch and give thanks to the Christ child. Yes, Amahl, yes, you should. You should bring your heartfelt thanks for this miracle. Are you sure you want to go? Sure. Oh, yes, Mother, I am sure. The king said, "We will take very good care of him, and we will bring him back home on a camel." Well, Amahl, get your cap, get your coat, and go with the kings. And so out the door they went, and Amahl ran back, as children will do, to give his mother one more embrace. And then the page lifted Amahl, who by then also had his pipe, onto the camel of Caspar. And as he leaned against the king's chest and the camels lurched forward, off they drove with his mother in the doorway, waving farewell to them. And Amahl began to pipe. He piped a song for the Christ child, a song for the kings, a song for his beloved mother, a song for their shepherding friends, and a song for the star that led them to the place where they would find the Christ child. And off they went into the distance under the star. Amen. Okay.